Ta-da! It's New Comic Book Day on April 1st, which is why I'm in a mask. What me worry? Let's check out this video. All right, guys, welcome back. And to start off with, we have Mad about DC. I have been reading Mad magazine ever since I was in high school, and it's been it's kind of like influenced me in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, my humor depends on comes out from Mad magazines and what I read, and yeah, so this one is by Chip Zdarsky and his friends. Basically, a lot of people. There's Jim Zub in it. There is Ryan North in it. There is so many artists. The cover is by Dan Panosian, and it's basically a mad take on DC, right? All the characters from DC, but not just DC. Also, it's also a lot of stuff about fandom, about comic books. So they basically take on comic book fans. They take out comic book movies. They take about comic cons. They take on everything related to comics, right? And how this project came into begin into like. How this project came to be is basically somebody Chip Zdarsky went to a party and somebody asked him like, what do you do? And Chip Zdarsky, like, as it connivingly said, I write comic books and about Batman punching the Joker. And then they were like, really, that's what you do? And then Chip Zdarsky was like, okay, what is the one art form which is lower than comics? And he says it is Mad magazine, basically, for writing for Mad magazine. So that's how the idea was born. And then he basically reached out to Marie Javins, who's the editor in chief at DC Comics. And he calls her an Chip's intern, which is so funny. And here he says Chip Zdarsky, guest editor, and Marie Javins as her intern. So he does a plethora of all these stories, like absolutely mad, blah 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 blah, and he takes on these funny, humorous outtakes on everything that is DC. So, for instance, this is Absolute Batman issue number 1, the cover to that, and this is by Scotty Young and Dave Sharp. But you have Alfred E. Newman, and instead of the bat logo, he's fat and he's got like an M logo here, right? And it says absolutely mad. So yeah, so it's a fun take. And but if you are like an avid Mad magazine reader, then you would know like what they do is they take all these sections, like this is spy versus spy, but they call it guy versus spy. So, and it's by Jim Zub, and as I said, Ramon Perez illustrates it. So it's a really really cool concept, right? I don't know why they never did it, but they've got like Sergio Aragonés doing his part and all, and they have everything that is there usually in a Mad magazine, just done for comic book fans and especially geared towards like DC Comics. So, for example, official Mad look at comic book brain anatomy, and so you've got the editor who's thinking about continuity and multiverse continuity, and you've got the average fan, right, the reader. So, defending Power Girl's heart window, that's and then Nightwing's juicy butt, oh my god, properly in damage, irresponsible hope. Actually, so yeah, so if you like Chip Zdarsky's brand of humor and all these creators that he's kind of sort of like gearing up with, then this is definitely a book for you. So this is definitely a book for me because I subscribe to Chip Zdarsky's monthly newsletter, and those are like so silly and humorous that they knock me off my rocker. But so this thing was like completely 100% built for people like me, and yeah, I'm curious to check this out. Swamp League with Genesis. Oh, that's so cool, man. And definitely check this out. I think it's a one shot. I don't think they're going to do it again. So as I said, Sergio Aragonés, like he does mad look at stuff. So this is mad look at comic book shops, right? So yeah, this is like my probably my pick of the week for this week, and I'm super happy to have it and super happy to read it. And probably I'll do a review on each and every panel, but that's going to be like a 20-minute video. But here's your official overview of Mad about DC issue number 1. Okay, next from DC we have Poison Ivy, issue number, what is it, 43 now? Oh my god, this is G. Willow Wilson's Poison Ivy. And to be honest, I bought it for the cover. This is an amazing, gorgeous cover by the artist Keon and I'm probably butchering that name, but that's Kyung Um, and he does all these like painted kind of covers. And Poison Ivy is one of my favorite characters in comic books. My wallpaper is a Sozomaika Poison Ivy cover. I haven't changed for over like 4 years. That's how much it's like I like Poison Ivy. But essentially, in the story, what it's about is so you've got Poison Ivy. She's now the mayor of Gotham, and she's going through some relationship trauma. So she's breaking up with Harley Quinn here, and then she's probably, once that is done, there is Janet from HR, and she discusses her feelings with him, with her, and then she's boning Catwoman. So so lots going on here. But again, this has been a fun run. This is supposed to be a 12 issue mini, but it's now extended to 43 because people loved it and the sales were pretty good on it. So yeah, hope that G. Willow Wilson, knocks it out of the park in this, and it goes for a couple of few issues. But this is Poison Ivy issue number 43. All right. Next, we've got a book from last week, but I got it this week. This is the Brian Bolland cover of Flash issue number 31 by Ryan North and artist Guido Guidry. And so this is a new turning point. So although it says issue 31, but there is a new flashes of insight story that starts here. So essentially, this focuses on Wally West, and Wally West is living his nice, having a quiet time. He's living with his family, right? He's running out to heat up casseroles for dinner, and he's doing his usual stuff. But something happens. So what happens is, on one of his and he's in Central City, he's trying to save the day. He has this premonition of this girl falling. He's got like a flash forward, as it's called, and then he goes and saves her, right? And then she asks him for a selfie, and he's like, okay, that's pretty innocent. I'm a superhero and she's asking me for a selfie, all good. So he gives her the selfie, and then he rushes back home and he thinks nothing of it. So what happens is, apparently, now he finds that there is another guy who's also trying to jump off a building and end his life, and he also calls for the Flash, and Flash has to go and save him. And then he says the same thing, right? Can I take a selfie? And then he's like, what's up with all these selfies and stuff, man? So it turns out that somebody has posted an article that every 24 hours, that person will pay, it's an anonymous sender, that they will pay $10,000 to anyone who posts footage of them being saved by the Flash. And that's the premise of the book. So now everybody is like into like car accidents and stuff, and they're calling for the Flash, expecting that the Flash will come and save them, and then they'll capture a picture and they'll earn this $10,000, right? So who's doing this? And this puts Flash in like a moral conundrum. And then can Flash deal with it or not? So from a first issue perspective, this thing was a banger because it respects Wally West, what came before, and it puts him in a moral dilemma, which I have never seen the Flash go through. So in such a unique way. And yeah, this is what this whole book is, man. And it's from first issue perspective, I am totally hooked in. I haven't read the Flash after Jeremy Adams runs finished, and then I haven't, and I think after that it was like Cy Spurrier who took over the book, and before this there was Mark Waid who did the DCKO stuff. But I haven't been catching up to the Flash, but this totally hooked me in, and I really love it, and I'm gonna carry with this. And yeah, Ryan North is doing an excellent job on Fantastic Four in Marvel, but this is his first, I think, DC project. So yeah, I'm totally hooked in. But that's Flash issue number 31, or somebody can call it issue 1 of Ryan North's run. Okay, next we have an ongoing issue. This is Absolute Superman, issue number 18 by Jason Aaron and artist Rafa Sandoval. It says that this is a new story that starts here, so you can just dive in. Basically, I don't know what this is about. So what I've heard is that features the three prominent introduction of three new Absolute Universe characters. One of them being King Shazam because it was announced in the solicitations, but there are also two more secret characters who are here who make their first appearance in this book. So it seems like Brainiac is back and Clark is like clashing with Brainiac, and there are multiple versions of Brainiac, as there should be. So I'm not really sure what this new story is about. You see your Lois Lane, you see Jimmy Olsen. He was fighting Parasite in the last arc, and that was pretty dope. So I'm sure like Jason Aaron has something nice cooking up in this one also. But anyway, guys, that's issue 18 of Absolute Superman for you. Okay, the last DC book we have is Batman Superman World's Finest. This is by Mark Waid and Dan Mora. So I think I read the first 35 issues of this because it was one of my favorite titles. Then I kind of dropped off. but because they reached issue 50, which is a milestone, and not many comics reach issue 50 these days, they're cancelled in like issue 12 if they're at Marvel, or issue like 4 or 5. So and at DC at least you get like a 12 issue arc at least in the minimum. And then but this reached to like almost a significant milestone, like 50 issues. And it's been great, right? It's basically the story of kind of like a Silver Age Superman and a Silver Age Batman when they first met, and in that continuity. So it's a whole ball of fun, right? It's delivering a modern age story with modern story with that Silver Age feel. So as you can see, you've got the Doom Patrol characters here. So and then you have, this is very cool. So this is basically the Adam West Batmobile with the Superman logo on it. So it's like their Superman Batman mobile, right? And it's got gorgeous Dan Mora art. So yeah, I missed her name. That was Elastigirl though. So I was just trying to remember, and now I did. So again, great characters, great story, and Mark Waid writing and Dan Mora on the art. Look at that Dan Mora art, man. That alone is worth the price of admission. And one thing that is cool about this book is this wraparound cover. So you see everything they've done in these 50 issues just like immortalized in this. So they had the Doom Patrol, they had the Teen Titans, they had this dude who becomes Magog, Ultra Boy or something. You got Luther, you got Metamorpho, you got Joker. So all of these, you got the amalgamation of Superman and Batman here. You got Batmite and Robin and Supergirl, who play like a pivotal part of all these 50 issues, right? So it's a culmination of this. So I was like, hey, it says Dan Mora, I'm gonna buy it, and it says Mark Waid, I'm definitely gonna buy it, right? So, but that's basically your issue 50 of Superman, Batman, World's Finest, guys. Okay, let's jump on to Marvel. The big book from Marvel is, I guess, this week was the new Daredevil, Man Without Fear. This is by Stephanie Phillips and no, Stephanie Williams. Is it Williams or is it Phillips? Okay, one of the Stephanies. So it's Stephanie Phillips. So she's doing this, and then this is done by Phillips. It is Phillips. So Stephanie Phillips and Lee Garbett. So and then Frank Martin is on the art and on the colors, and so basically, what this is a new story with Daredevil. Their last run with Saladin Ahmed was not really that great, so it's pretty forgettable. So they kind of sort of relaunched this, and this one is there was a blind bag for this. I was like, I have way too many blind bags. They do well for me in terms of numbers from video count perspective, but I just wanted to see Daredevil swing, and I like this Dan Panosian cover, so I was like, I'm just going to go with it. So, but exactly, but what this is you have this new villain. Yeah, he's the big bad guy, and they show you in the first panel that he's going to fight Matt, and they give you some glimpses of the future, but then they go back into the past, right? So where Matt Murdock is basically doing what he does in Hell's Kitchen, which is beat up bad guys, and then at the same time he's not a lawyer anymore, but he's a law professor at NYU, and he's basically teaching them contract law. So he says contracts are about promises. And why he's teaching contract law is because Stephanie Williams went and she wanted to know, be authentic to the story, be authentic to being a lawyer. So she took like some courses of being a contract lawyer. So she threw it in there, and it works, man. So again, there's no Karen Page, there's no Foggy or nobody else, no supporting. They're all new supporting cast members here. So if you're fresh to Daredevil, this is your first time, probably you can dive into this and read this. But there's some detective stuff going on. There is a guy who's been murdered with his eyeballs ripped out, so they're doing that. And so the conclusion to this is what basically the story is about. But from a as a number one issue, it did not take as many risks as I wanted it to take. It is a good story, there is a hook at the end, but again, for Daredevil, I want people to take like massive risks. Like the first issue of Chip Zdarsky's run was brilliant, right? The way it ends, you're like, okay, I have to buy issue 2. This one is okay. Okay, and I would not say that I would not it's playing it safe, and it's good, and Lee Garbett artwork is amazing. So if you're a Daredevil fan, I would say check it out. But I think this will take some issues to actually sink into the core story, and get to that meat and bones of that whole thing. But anyway, so I enjoyed it though. I will give you a recommend from my end. This is Daredevil, Man Without Fear, issue number 1. All right. So the next thing we have is this Eternals book. So Eternals completed, like, it's the 50th anniversary of Jack Kirby's Eternals. So Jack Kirby created Eternals, created by Jack Kirby. So it is the one thing that Jack Kirby did at Marvel by himself. So there was no Stanley involvement, there was nobody else with him. He did all the story, he did all the drawing, he did all the plotting. And to me, Eternals is one of the greatest things ever created, like, because Jack Kirby went completely raw. Like, he took like inspiration from Mayan civilization, Incan civilization, and he just created this bizarre of the world concept with celestials and all these robotic entities that they create to protect the earth and stuff. So you've got Erisham the Judge here, you've got Eson the Searcher, and whatnot. So I have read all of the Eternals runs that have come before this. So you've got the starting from Jack Kirby, and I think till the last one was by Kieran Gillen. So everything in the middle, you've got the Neil Adams run, you've got the Charles Knopf, Daniel Knopf run, you've got a bunch of other things. So every book that has the title Eternals, I've read that. The only thing is, and it's easier to do. So if you wanted to say, like, be that guy who said, oh, I've read everything of Fantastic Four, I've everything of Amazing Spider-Man, it's a hard job. But if you say, like, if you want to be that guy who says, I've read every issue of the Eternals, it's not that hard because there are not too many runs out there, right? So you can just grab and read everything. I haven't read their crossovers with the Avengers, which means, like, in the 80s and the 90s they had the Avengers, the Crossing and all, where Cersei etc were thrown in with Captain America and the Black Knight and all. But everything that is typed in title the Eternals, I have basically read, and I love those characters, like this Icarus. So you've got essentially, this is celebration of that, those 50th anniversary of Eternals. And then you've got three stories here. So the first one, you get Phil Note. So the art, you get the story by Ethan Parker and Griffin Sheridan, and Phil Noto and Dale Eaglesham on the art. So Phil Noto artwork has always been sublime, so it's good to see. Then I wanted to buy the Michael Cho cover of this, but my LCS unfortunately didn't have it. So I took this Avo cover, this Ako cover, and then so it's got three stories. So you got Ralph, but I did get like the internal artwork by Michael Cho is also here. So the second story, this is Michael Cho artwork, and he's got a style of his own. He did the Avengers Veracity book last year, which was basically an ode to the Silver Age. But essentially, what you get is, you get three stories in the Eternals roster, and then the first one is with Captain America and Steve Rogers and Icarus, and how they met for the first time, and they've been buddies ever since. And then the last one is by Patrick Stump and Domenico Carbone. So you get three stories, and you get some extra bonus features featuring the Eternals. I hope they do a new Eternals story soon, because uh, this is a dope concept if executed well. But you need somebody like what Ramvi did with New Gods and DC. That's what you need for the Eternals, and you'll have a good run. But that's Eternals issue number one, guys. 50th anniversary. It's a one shot, so please check it out if you're into the Eternals. All right. Then from the independent side of things, we've got Savage Sword of Conan. This is by Roy Thomas and Rob Della Torre. Essentially, it's a massive story. You get like 80 pages in this amazing, amazing black and white format, the magazine format that I have always fallen in love with. And this is like very reminiscent of that John Buscema artwork done by Rob Della Torre. It's got all the violence, it's got all the nudity. This is not for your kids. So, but then, and it's got like all those adult type stories which you can't publish in regular comics. But it's my jam, man. And if Roy Thomas is back on Conan and Rob Della Torre is drawing Conan, I am in. And this is now on, what is it, the 13 issues of this. I have bought all of this. I've enjoyed every one of them. These are all independent stories, more or less. You don't have to. There's no continuity here. You can just read one, enjoy it, and and check out if you want, or continue if you like, if you want. So you get the option to do that. But yeah, Savage Sword of Conan, loving it. All right, the next one we've got the last books we have is, these are the two issues. Again, this is not from this week. This is Spirit of the Shadows by Nick Cagnetti and Daniel Ziegler. So I'm a big fan of Nick Cagnetti from Pink Lemonade, and this is his second book, and I've been enjoying it. Like, I've been digging it. So essentially, what this is there's a guy who's died and gone to this purgatory type of place, and what he does there determines whether he goes to heaven or hell. And his lover, who also passed away unfortunately, is separated from him, and he's just trying to find his way back. So it's got like amazing artwork by Nick Cagnetti, and Daniel Ziegler does an amazing story. So there is a witch, there is supernatural stuff, and this whole coloring and artwork by Nick Cagnetti is what draws me in. It's very reminiscent of Tom Scioli, what he does, and it pulls me in, right? and hopefully give it a shot. It's a very independent book, right? Nick Cagney is should be on a DC or a Marvel title, like an Absolute Universe title or something, but he does his independent stuff and he does it really well, and that's the reason why I keep on buying it. But anyway, guys, that's basically it from me. I've taken a lot of time, but thank you. Happy April Fool's Day to everyone. Please like this video, please subscribe, and and if you have any questions about any of these books, put it in the comments. But I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care. Goodbye.